From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Purim, drinking on Purim. The Gemara Megillah, the Talmud Megillah 7b, Zayin Mabet, reads as follows. Amar Rava, Rava said, Rava, the face of it, seems to say, a person is obligated to get drunk on Purim to the point that he doesn't know the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. This statement has troubled sages throughout the ages. Could it be true that the rabbis in the Talmud, Rava, one of the great sages of all time, commanded us, said that it's an absolute obligation on Purim to get so drunk that we have no idea what Purim is all about? And why would that even be important? The idea of drinking on Purim seems to play an important role in the Megillah. After all, there are no less than 7 banquets. There is a banquet for the general community. There's a banquet for the inner circle of Achashverosh. There is a banquet for the marriage of Esther. There is a banquet where Haman and Mordechai and Achashverosh are just sitting and drinking for no reason at all. And there's a banquet of Vashti, and there's a banquet of Esther, number 1, and then she makes a second party. All mishtei hayayin, are all drinking banquets. Drinking, particularly wine, not anything else, is so prominent in Purim. Everything, the miracles, the tragedies, everything happened through drinking, and therefore drinking is an appropriate way to think about Purim. But still, that's the way of Achashverosh and Haman. Is that what we want to do? Is that what the message we want to have for our Purim, for our children, for our families? Make it even worse, there's a story that's then told in the Talmud. Rabbi Reb Zera avdu sudas Purim bahadi adadi. Rabbi, that's Rava's teacher and mentor, and Reb Zera, a student of his, contemporary, they made a Purim Suda together. Ivsum, according to Rashi, he got drunk. Kam Rabba shach Taylor Reb Zera. According to the simple meaning, it seems to say that Rabba stood up and he slaughtered Reb Zera, like he slaughtered him like an animal. Lamachar. The next day, when presumably they all sobered up and woke up, he sees that he's gone. So Bayirachame va'achye. Rabba prayed for Rabbi Zera, and he brought life back to him. He brought him back to life. Lashana, the next year, Amar Le, the other rabbi said to the other, Nesi Marvin Eved Sudas Purim Ba'adei Adadi. Come on over, we'll make Purim together. Amar Le, Reb Zera said to Rabba, to the host, Lo b'chol shata v'shata mitrachish nisa. Not every year can you have a miracle. We can't guarantee that it will be brought back to life next year. I'm not coming to your party. That's the Gemara. The question is, what in the world does this mean? Did this rabbi kill the other? Are we obligated to get drunk? What should we do? Purim is coming. What should we do? Get drunk? Beyond the point where we even know what Purim is all about? Is that what the Talmud tells us? So I'd like to show that every line in this Gemara has been reread by the various Rishonim, the various great authorities of the Middle Ages, of the early period, the Rishonim, to the point that the Gemara is unrecognizable by the time we're done with it. It's true, there are those who seem to read it at face value. Rashi says that, yes, they got drunk. The Rif quotes Rava as is. He quotes this statement that persons should get so drunk. The Tur and the Shulchan Aruch, the major codes, they quote Rava as is. However, we also see tremendous hesitation about this notion. Firstly, the Ravya says that it's quoted by the Mordechai and the Hagos Mamanios. He says as follows. He says that chayav, it doesn't really mean chayav. You're not really obligated to get drunk. That's ridiculous. It's a mitzvah. It's not, if you get that drunk, that's good, but if you got that drunk, it wouldn't prevent you from getting the mitzvah. Usually you would think that if a person got so drunk, the mitzvah is gone. You're no longer a able-bodied person. The mitzvah goes out the window. He says, well, you can still fulfill the mitzvah even if you got drunk. The Korban Nesanel, around the 1700s, he said, No, it doesn't mean you should get drunk. Levesume doesn't mean drunk. It means you should feel good. How do you say to get drunk in Aramaic? Liravot. That's the getting drunk. But levesume, that just means to feel good. And also, ad, you should get drunk till the point that you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. Not including that point, up to that point. But you should never lose sight of what Purim is all about. Then you've not done a mitzvah at all. That's the Korban Hasana. The Kolbo and the Orchos Chaim collections from the period of in Provence, around the 1300s, they say, number one, that bisume is not drunkenness. You should not get drunk, because drunkenness is totally forbidden, he says. There is no sin as great as drunkenness. It causes immorality and killing and many other sins. You should drink a little more than usual. That's what the Kolbo says, and we'll see in a moment that becomes an important part of the halacha. Rabbeinu Yerucham, also from Provence, and the Aguda in Germany later, he says that no, you're so drunk you don't even know that Haman is bad and Mordechai is good. No. You're so drunk that you can't calculate that the gematria, the numerical value of blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman. The numerical value, the gematria, is the same. It's 502. That, even if you had a couple of drinks, you might not be in the mood to figure out the equation of these two expressions. So it's not so drunk that you don't know what the story is all about, just a little bit drunk. That's another way of looking at the expression that you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. And the Aruch HaShulchan mentions the idea that there's a longer song. As the Tosfot says, after all, you have to know that cursed is Zeresh. Zeresh is Haman's wife. You have to remember who she is. Blessed is Esther. Cursed are all the wicked. Blessed are all the Jews. We say Gam Charvonah Zachul Tov. You have to know the whole song. If you can't sing the whole song, then you're too drunk. A lot of people have trouble singing that song. I don't know. A lot of people can't remember Shoshanas Yaakov, the song we sing after we read the Megillah. So if you just had one drink, maybe you already would qualify in that category. Now, Lavush says you have to be just a tiny bit drunk. Drunk enough that if you asked, well, what's more important in the Megillah? The rise of Haman, or the fall of Haman, or the rise of Mordechai? What's the key thing in this Megillah? It's a very interesting commentarial question. If you're not in the mood to discuss this esoteric question, then you're drunk enough. That's enough. The Rabbeinu Ephraim quoted in the Maor and the Ran, they say that actually, forget this whole Gemara. Forget that I told you anything. When we tell a story that someone got killed for this halacha because he tried to fulfill this notion, that is the Gemara's way of saying, forget it. Forget about it. Don't even think about getting drunk on Purim. Absolutely not. Otherwise, look what's going to happen. So the Lavush says, the Ran and the Rabbeinu Ephraim, they say, no, this shows you we do not hold this way. And also the Aruch HaShulchan suggests that when the Rambam, Maimonides, says that, well, you should have a little more than usual and you should fall asleep. Who said, does it say here that you should fall asleep? Apparently the Rambam rejects this Gemara and he came up with a new idea that maybe you could just go take a little rest. The Ramah, the authority that we follow, we're Ashkenazic Jews, and many Sephardic Jews would think it's a good idea too, because after all, it's quoted by the Ran and the Kolbo and the Orchos Chaim, outside the Ashkenazic community. And the Ramah says that it's the Kolbo who wins the day. You should just drink a little more than usual, quotes the Rambam. And he says you should not get drunk, just drink a little more than usual. So that's the Ramah, the authority we follow, takes the position that we should not get too drunk. The Mishnah Berurah quotes the Meiri, and the Meiri really goes all out. And the Meiri says as follows. He says, "Einanu mitzun lishtaker ulahafchiz atzminu mitoch simcha." He says, no way that we're obligated to get drunk and to lower ourselves to get drunk. Shelo nistavenu al simcha shel holus v'shel shtus. There's no way that we were commanded to get drunk to the point of foolishness and frivolity. Because he says as follows, The whole idea is Hodal Anisim, to thank God. And he says that there's no way that we're supposed to do that. And if a person does drink, it should certainly, as the Chai Adam says, it should be wine, as we mentioned, and nothing else. So, but what is the idea of getting drunk? Well, why is there even a possibility that we should get drunk on Purim? And they like to suggest the idea is that Purim is the salvation of the Jews from utter destruction. When a Jew is saved from utter destruction, how do you celebrate that? How do you celebrate the coming back from the precipice, coming back from the dead? The only way is this very strange way. We're very uncomfortable with this way. We're very uncomfortable with this notion, but somehow the idea that you almost have to go into an altered state to deal with the fact that we almost didn't exist. Nonetheless, bottom line, we should just have a little glass of wine, more than we usually have on a Sunday afternoon, and with that we fulfill the mitzvah. With that we remember that so many of the miracles of Purim took place through wine, and that way, in some ways, we reenact the stories of Purim, and hopefully, even without our greatest consciousness, God will take care of us and see to it that He brings us back once again from the brink. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfar Beth El congregation for our discussion of Purim. Feel free to look at our archives from past discussions, and thanks to Jason Lefkowitz for making today's presentation possible. And as always, throughout the year, we learn Zecher Nishmas Avimori Harini Kaparas Mishkavo Baruch Reb Chaim Shmuel, my father of blessed memory. Thank you very much.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.